Glad to have you join us now. Let's take a look at some of the stories making the rounds now. Charles Frakoha, iBrandTV analyst, joins us here in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you again. Good morning to you.
Morning. Thank you very much for having me.
And finally, we have you here. You were telling us stories the other time at what was happening in the village.
Yes.
As if you're reporting from the village. But
that's true.
That was okay. And then, of course, we get to that in a moment. How you think things have really picked up in respect with the new Naira circulation, but we'll get to that in a moment. But let's start with this story particularly. This is just a follow-up now that subscribers, that's telecom subscribers, going to court suing the federal government over the tax hike on telecom services. What's the position of this? Because it looks like the negotiation or the call by telecom subscribers has fallen on deaf ears.
Well, we cannot say the telecom industry or sector has not done quite a lot for the economy. Government has derived or generated so much revenue from that sector, and like we normally say, because it's a cash cow, you're not expected to kill that cash cow, because you need to maintain that cash cow so that it will continue to have the capacity to produce cash for you. So imposing so much tax on that sector, for me, I wouldn't say it is too good for economic growth. Yes, we already have the VAT. VAT is already there. Now, even the excise duty. What I would advise, yes, it's a good thing. The subscribers have gone to court and let the judiciary interpret and see whether it was right or any legal issue concerning why this tax will still be on this sector. Yes, government has a responsibility to generate revenue, and tax is one form of government tool to generate revenue, and also as a fiscal policy. So I want to say a compromise where yes, the telecom subscribers, which I'm also one of them,
we make calls every day.
We make calls every day
for data.
Yes, we want to pay a reasonable tax for the services we are using. There's nothing wrong with that, but we are saying this tax should be reasonable, so that if you have a lot of taxes, we are being paying so much tax, of course, what happens? The cost of that service will be high. So there should be a compromise, but it's obvious that the telecom subscribers are willing to pay tax based on the services, but at the same time, let's allow the courts to interpret the prayers of the subscribers.
Okay, it's all right. Let's hope that by this time next week, or by the time it is revisited again, we hope that the prayers will be heeded. Okay, let's look at this next story as we rush through it. Naira redesign. NECA predict business shutting down over Naira crisis, and that's because all through last week it degenerated into where some people even lost their life in the process of trying to access their own cash.
Yes.
Where it's unfortunate that a lot of people lost their life. There was protest in Ibadan.
Exactly. Yes.
And in some parts of the country as well, there were burnings, there were protests, there was crises.
Yes.
And so now the impact now on business cannot be overemphasized. NECA is coming out, that's Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, is coming out that this will lead to businesses shutting down.
Yes, you don't even need a soothsayer to tell you this, that it's obvious some businesses are already shut down. Pardon me, or forgive me, I will give an example of where I was coming from, my village. Before 31st, some of the small business owners, because I went round, obviously said they are not collecting the old Naira notes because they are not sure of how they are going to exchange it for the new one. So they shut down. They were not opening their shops.
That means the swap policy scheme of the CBN didn't get there because, of course, there was a swap program going on.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
In some part of
at first it was 31st. Now, when the new announcement came, of course, some of them opened, and of course, some of them opened up, and of course, we saw that swap, Naira swap from the CBN, and for the first time, I commended CBN because they got to that village. Of course, it was the local government headquarters. And they were exchanging, irrespective of the banks. Because there's only one bank in that the local government headquarters. And they were exchanging, but the maximum they could give was 10,000 naira. However, as soon as they left, that's the CBN team, they could not satisfy everybody, you know. But when they left, people now thought, okay, we can now get to the bank, maybe at the ATM, we will see this new naira. Since CBN has been here.
But they couldn't.
They couldn't. And that's, you know, aggregated the problem more. Because people now say, if CBN has been here, they expect that enough cash will have been kept at the bank. You know, they just exchange the ones they saw. So I think what NECA is saying now is real. And the government has to ensure that there's availability of this new naira note so that small businesses can come back. Again, I must say one thing. It is obvious that professionalism, ethics in the banking profession has gone under, because we expect bankers to be professional in terms of their operation. What we are seeing playing out here, for me, all the bankers that are involved in this exercise have failed that ethics of banking profession. Because as a banker, you are expected to take care of your customers. Professionalism. We have seen cases all over the place now where these bankers, what do? They hoard these new naira notes. And of course, that is not banking practice.
All right. Because of our time, let's quickly rush to this final two story. Perhaps we'll be able to take it. The next one, of course, petrol scarcity, which is also part of the issue we're talking about. And marketers are saying there are no fuel anywhere. But the NNPC and of course, we're talking about the Nigerian Midstream and downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority,
which is formerly DPRO.
Yes. They said there's fuel that can last, you know, that can even wet the whole entire country, about 1.6 billion liters, you know, liters of petrol out there. So the question is, who is telling the truth here? The marketers say there are no fuel, especially talking about the independent marketers. They are saying, look, we don't have it. You know, so how do we get it? And it's obvious there that when you go out there, you drive into filling stations, you won't see, or most of the filling stations are shut down. So, I mean, how do we even reconcile things? It looked like a problem that will not go away. Perhaps we may not be able to. Let's dwell on quickly talk about this before we wrap up.
That's the fuel scarcity.
Yes.
Yes. Again, we need to see a spade must be called a spade. The Minister of Petroleum Resources, the State Minister, they both failed. Because if, as at February, we are still talking about availability of fuel for the ordinary Nigerians, we cannot get it.
Because the presidency is the...
Of course, that's what it is. Yes, he has failed. And in Senate claims, I think he should just maybe resign. Because it should
resign from that position.
From that position.
As
the minister. I've said this several times. And I'll continue to say it. Because if you are a minister...
Again, what difference does it even make in the first place? I mean, he has less than 4 months or 5 months.
Agreed, but as a minister of petroleum, this issue started way last year. Until today, we are still talking about it.
Okay.
Now, there is a trust deficit. And this current government continues to amplify that. It's like you keep telling yourself you are so incompetent, because I cannot see where a government of the day, now the so-called oil corporation, is it NNPC Limited or NNPC now? NNPC then the old DPR is saying we have fuel. And the people who are loading and distributing, I don't want to say major marketers, the independent marketers are saying we cannot see this fuel. And me and you know, when you go around Lagos and other parts of the country, you will see these queues, they are still there. Some filling stations are even shut down. Then where is this fuel? So there is a trust deficit, the government is not transparent, and if there are officials that are responsible for this, why is it that the government is very difficult to deal with them? The average Nigerian just want to see fuel available. People will tell they go to fuel stations and they queue for 7, 8, 9 hours. And when they finally, when they finally get to the account, they tell you the fuel has finished. And they say, okay, no, we are not collecting cash. Okay, there's no cash. Go to POS and nothing is there working. So it's like the government of the day, is just trying to continue to say, Nigerians, we're incompetent, so please. And there is election in just few weeks from now. And I'm wondering, even if I'm contesting for a student union election, I will not continue to shoot myself on my foot. And that's what this current government is doing. Well, I just pray that the Nigerians will be able to look at the issues very well. And of course, like they say in local palace, shine their eyes when they are making their decision
I think
to vote.
We just have to leave. We may not be able to take the last story anymore. Thank you so much. And again, I mean, not to even consider the impact of what that is on the economy and, you know, small business activity, no movement around and all of that. It's a whole lot of issue. Thank you, Charles Fakroha, iBrand analyst. We appreciate you for coming.
Thank you. I was able to get here after paying so much for POS.
That's all right. Thank you so much for your time. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll head straight to the capital market, and we'll look at the performance of the equities market the previous week and what to expect for the new week. We're back in a moment. Please stay with us.